This is the noisy sheep again, making noise for our God in our noisy world. Despite all of the wonders, the miracles, the signs, the not so comfortable plagues that was brought to Egypt, the Pharaoh still did not budge. He still wanted the Israelites kept as slaves, trapped within Egypt, unable to worship, unable to live the lives uh, that God intended for them. And so finally, God said, I will send the angel of death. And he gave very, very specific instructions to Moses. Look for an unblemished lamb, meaning nothing broken, very clean, uh, perfect in a sense. It has to be a lamb that's willing to be sacrificed because lambs don't struggle. Uh, and then it has to be sacrificed, and then the blood should be put on the doors, and then they must consume it. In fact, consume everything as much as possible, and whatever is left over has to be burned before morning or by morning. It's very specific. And if they don't follow, the angel of death will not pass through them. And a lot of people are asking, what does that have to do with us? You see, the angel of death represents our sins, the sins of the world, our sinfulness. Sin makes us die, brings us death. And Jesus is the lamb that we sacrifice so that we will be saved from our sins. The blood stands as the sign that we are cleansed by God, that He has bought our salvation with His life. But take note, they had to consume the lamb. In fact, consume the lamb totally and leave no traces. What does that mean? As Catholics, we believe that the Eucharist is Jesus. Jesus Himself, literally, not a symbol, not a sign, but Jesus Himself. And by consuming the Eucharist during the Mass, through the Holy Communion, we take participation, we take part in the fulfillment of what the episode in Moses' time points to. The Eucharist is the new Passover, wherein the new covenant is built in Jesus. We are saved through Jesus, which is why in the Last Supper, Jesus said, unless you eat my flesh and drink my blood, you will not be saved. In the similar way, the Israelites were like that as well. Unless they consume the lamb and the blood is placed in their doors, they will not be saved. The angel of death will kill them. In our case, sin will bring us death. And not just death of the body, but eternal death. Continuous and infinite death. Brothers and sisters, as Catholics, we are given a gift of salvation through the Eucharist. It is not just a trivial thing. It's not just a sign. It's not just a symbol. It is part of our salvation. That God has been preparing mankind from the very beginning. The tree of life that Adam and Eve no longer had access to, that mankind had no longer access to, is fulfilled in the cross with Jesus as our fruit, the fruit that we consume through the Eucharist as well, the sacrifice that we provide so that sin will not have any power over us. Mass might be boring to a lot of people, but if you know the meaning, if you know that the Mass is a participation in that great sacrifice, the signs, the events that happened in Moses are nothing compared to the reality that we are brought into during the holy sacrifice of the Mass, where we consume the lamb, saved from sin, and have access to the fruit of life. don't miss that opportunity.